Yeah?
I just don't want to get in trouble for it again.
You've gotten in trouble in the past. What happened?
I got in jail a couple times.
But you still do it?
Hell yeah.
You're now tuning into All in the Bag.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of All in the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Myan. Today, we're hopping into Narnia and meeting up with, bringing onto the show, Satyr. What's going on, man?
Yo, thanks for having me.
Is that right? The fucking from Narnia?
Have you
seen?
Narnia has a satyr in it. Yeah.
Okay.
But
all right.
I didn't get it from Narnia. No.
All right. Yeah. I had to think about that shit because I was like, Satyr, what's something funny? Because I've been trying to be better at the intros, but I'm like, what do I say? Bet. I'm gonna double check that real quick, just because I'm curious. My ass over here, fucking. What was that? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I think that was probably one of the first.
Did you ever see that shit?
I read it. I think we were actually required to read it as a kid. I don't know.
Yeah, same in high school.
Yeah,
or actually, I think like elementary school.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time.
Oh no, it's the fawn. Well,
but the fawn basically is a satyr.
Okay,
so
yeah,
you're
okay.
not
I thought so. All right, cool. Yeah, because I was gonna say it's like a half human, half goat, right?
Yeah, half human, half goat. There's some descriptions, half human, half horse, but it's really kind of Greek mythology of the man in nature and the nature in man, which has always been kind of a theme and an interest to me. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then so the half human, half horse, isn't that a centaur?
Well, if it's got four legs.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. All right, understand. Bet. Okay. Well, there you go. So I'm sure we can get into how you got your name, but before that, let's get into how you got started, because I like to start the podcast chronologically. Like at the time when you got into graffiti, what year was you decided to pick up a can? What was going around as far as like the atmosphere,
right,
to get you into this subculture?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of, not necessarily the graffiti aspect, but certainly the art aspect. I was definitely exposed to a lot of art as a kid. Obviously, I think we all were kind of forced one way or another to do coloring in the lines and whatnot as an adolescent, just starting out. My family actually has some heritage in art. My granny was a professional artist back when it was kind of hard to make a name for yourself as a woman in the art field. She was
sick.
Yeah, she she did design costumes for Shirley Temple, a lot of the old
Whoa.
movies. She did a lot of the costumes for them. She had her own comic book comic page in the newspaper.
No way.
It was called Katie Keene. Back then, women wouldn't be acknowledged for the drawing, only the man. So it was actually accredited to a male back then. So she didn't necessarily get her name known through that. Just, that was kind of like a claim to fame. And she was just an amazing artist. She did everything. She could do watercolors, just good pencil sketches. And when I'd spend time with her as a, young kid, walking around with her, she'd always just kind of like point things out that were interesting, whether it was like the way the moss was hanging off a tree or just something that I wouldn't have necessarily picked up on as a kid, that she kind of helped start the vision of how to look at things in kind of an artistic eye.
Yeah.
And I think that's relative to, later on in my life with the graffiti aspect, because
oh, hell yeah,
it kind of formed an addiction to thinking creatively, seeing things creatively, and just being creative. So I definitely got the passage to get into artwork through a young age. And, quite frankly, even without that influence, I think I kind of had some sort of OCD surrounding, coloring within the lines. I was just really hypercritical of myself, even as a young kid, to make sure I did it right. And I just, I cared a lot about, creating things properly. So that's kind of the intro to who I am, I suppose. But then when I really got into the graffiti, the stuff that your listeners want to hear about.
No, I mean, it's like all of that brings like experience into who you are, what you've done with your body of work. And so it's like, I like hearing shit that's like non-graffiti related, and I'm sure other people do as well, because it's like it's you, right? We're talking about Satyr. We're not talking about fucking like, the art form of breakdown of like wild style, right? So it's like there's no specific rules. It's really what influenced you. So it's tight to hear that background, especially, from, you said your grandma?
Yeah, my granny. Yeah,
Your granny,
she
that's
was
sick.
the one for sure.
Yeah.
And then, of course, both my dad's always had some good penmanship, and my mom was into calligraphy. So, like, those things also, like, subconsciously influenced a little bit of my, influence into writing.
Yeah, your parents had hands.
Yeah, my mom, R.I.P. It's been 10 years. She was just like the lady with that stuff. I mean, she would do the table settings for people's weddings venues or whatever. Just because it was just super clean calligraphy. So fast forward to kind of more like where I got deeper into the graph aspect of life. I was really early influenced by skateboarding. I know that I've listened to some of your other podcasts. I think that's kind of a common theme, especially here in the Bay Area. For some
100%,
reason.
right?
And like that definitely consumed my life. I spent so much of my life just, outside of high school, just trying to learn how to kickflip and do tricks down stuff and pushing my own limitations. And it really just opened my mind to the way I saw the world. Driving down the street, you'd be seeing curbs and handrails where other people wouldn't see anything. And that surrounded me into a world of other guys that kind of already might have started to be interested in graffiti, maybe like the guys that I'd hang out with. And I grew up down in the Mid-Peninsula area, so just to kind of give a location.
Another Peninsula writer.
Yeah, and so these guys, a lot of these guys, they started with these tags, and I didn't understand it. I just kind of was fascinated by it. And I was more into kind of drawing cartoons. I was really, I had a little trouble focusing in school. So I think a lot of times to pass the time through classes, I would doodle a lot. And this is before I had letters or understood anything about graffiti, but I still kind of was going for these kind of warped character drawings, like big eyes or one Google eye or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd find myself sitting there, just trying to draw a background of like a city drop, and then like I'd find myself like making my interpretation of graffiti in the background on that, and I was like not even intentionally starting to practice letters through that. It was just like process.
Subconsciously in your head.
It was a background that became kind of something that I started fixating on. So that kind of is where I got introduced into that world. So we're talking about the early 90s, mid 90s, really early 90s. And so I'd have friends that we'd take the train up to the city to go skate, kind of the Mecca where all the action was, hit the EMB. And back then it was wild. Like, you'd get on a bus to go try to get to Fort Miley or something. And the guys on the bus would just hand you a pen, and like you just kind of be on the spot to write something, whether you were good or not. And like,
sick.
It was just kind of a vibe. I mean, I think anyone who remembers back then, they'll say that's accurate. But that was the time when I started actually paying attention to what some of the like burner shit was on the walls, like the tight shit. And again, I think it's probably a pretty commonality in the Bay Area writers. The big one for me, it was Twist, and I gotta say that's because I hadn't done any deep diving into like history or origins of hand styles and writing. So he kind of was a crowd pleaser to me because he was like catching these sick spots, and just the way that he was illustrating these characters was just mind blowing. Like it would literally I was like, who's this dude? And back then, I mean, he was getting the cover of Slap magazine. I was like really into those skate mags and stuff. And I was just consumed by his work and just so inspired by his stuff. And of course, there were other people that were influencing back then and going back into hand styles. And I think I don't know if you've had some of these guys on your channels, but of course, like the US guys, like a lot of those guys were what I would see just walking around town. And I'd always be amazed to see where like these little orphan, paint pen tags on, whatever, like a Drainstorm cover, like something you wouldn't even think to write on, but it's like, maybe it was like at my dentist, and I'd see it walking into some building and be like, damn. So like those guys all really definitely had an influence, at least in the tag styles, or at least who I was seeing. And then of course, we skate a lot of times at the train station, and whenever a freight would go by, we just stop skating and we just peep, basically bench. I don't even know if we called it benching then. We just looked at the train go by, and I just remember seeing the Kings, the Zens, just because they were the easiest to read and just such the like classic graffiti look to them. Yeah, and that was like definitely one of my big influences, just in terms of like digesting what was happening around me. So that took a little while.
when was the first time you like grabbed a can and you were like, I'm gonna try this?
So, yeah, that was it. Probably in my backyard. Some like again, some of the
Nice.
the kids that I was skating with, you know, they'd already started doing it. I think they were a little older than me, and they were kind of more clicked up already. So I was kind of like coming into the skate scene and trying to cut my teeth in my skating. But a lot of those guys were already writing and doing stuff, and at least already had the Phantom caps, and like that was a big deal to like understand all these different caps.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the first thing I did is it's in the backyard. I tried to do a joke piece. I thought I was so creative. I thought I was so funny too. That's why I wanted to be joke. You know, I'm like, I'm hilarious. So I did a joke piece, and it actually came out amazing. I remember using like a cherry red Krylon for the outline, and it was like came out so icy. I mean, like,
do you have a picture of that somewhere?
I might, dude.
Yeah, that'd be sick to see.
I mean, it's like mad old, dude.
That's tight. Your parents were like totally supportive of this?
No, not really, dude.
So you just did like a burner in their backyard?
No, it was like a board, dude. It was like it was nothing that was gonna like ruin the house.
Not
or
the
anything.
wall.
Yeah, no. But you know, I was like, unfortunately, had success on the first try. But after that, I didn't have that same success because I was obviously super freaking toy, dude. You know, I'm figuring it out. But that kind of started the realm, and then again, some of the skater guys I hung out with at the time, we'd go under bridges, and some of them were better than me, and I kind of watched their techniques and kind of try to learn what they were doing.
Soaking up game.
Yeah, and I think I mostly started by trying to do characters with maybe doing a couple of those jokes, and then, you know, I found out there was another joke. Surprise, surprise, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I'll be clever. I'll switch. I'm like in Spanish class with my homie Little Ho, and we're sketching in our, you know, notepads. And I'm like, oh, bromas. That means joke in Spanish. No one will write that. I'm going to write bromas. And then, like, you know, so I was trying that. And, you know, of course, a lot of the stuff, it's like black booking. You know, back then I didn't even know it as black booking. It was literally my school notebooks that I was practicing these different names in. And then I think actually my first one, and this wasn't with a spray can. Before that, it was Crazy, Krazi, and I thought I was just like the crazy one. I'm like, yo, and I remember hitting up
I love these names, by the way.
No, they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. But I mean, keep in mind, I'm coming from like no like proper introduction. This is just like my interpretation.
I mean, this is pre-internet too, so it's like if you don't see these words, they don't exist technically as far as like writer names, right?
Oh yeah. I don't even think. I mean, Subway Art probably was out, but I definitely didn't know about it.
Right.
And I don't even think there was many, if any, publications of graffiti mags back then, and certainly none that I'd seen. So it was a virgin topic to me. And I just remember getting the marker and writing it on one of the lockers at high school, and I was just like, "Oh, Fire. Dude, I did it! You know,
catch like, tags."
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously these are stories from my toy-isms, but I mean, that's all kind of part of the history of like what developed into something better. I think I kept trying to do. I just kind of kept having a little side tag, but it wasn't a focus of mine at the time. Again, skateboarding was just my life. It's all I was about. But what ended up happening, I mean, I was still drawing a lot. So I was interested in trying to, at an early stage, even before influences, I was really determined to be good. And whatever version that was. And again, I didn't really have a benchmark to you know, measure against. But I really just wanted to just go right to being like the best piecer and character artist, and just elevate everything to the top floor. And that's when, you know, at the time, I think I was a senior in high school, and my girlfriend's mom worked as an accountant at Atari, and she knew that I drew all the time. So she was like, "Hey, let me get you an internship. Like, we'll set you up with a day where you can go in, and, you know, so hopefully you can get, you know, a resume or get people starting to think about hiring you as a video game designer and stuff." And I was like, "That's dope. That's super dope." So I go on this alleged internship, and basically they put me in a cubicle next to a couple other people that are all playing video games, and they're like, "We want you to like play these video games and look for glitches and imperfections in the game." I'm like, "Okay, cool. When do I get to meet the artist?" They're like, "No, this is what you're gonna do for the day." And I was like, "This is the lamest, fake, like not what I expected situation."
Yeah.
But it's important to share this story because it's where I met Nate One, who he was sitting in the cubicle next to me, and it was more or less like he was having the same complaint, except his wasn't an internship. He actually was getting paid to do it, right?
Oh.
And he was older than me, just to start that off. So
Yeah.
so I didn't really know, and straight laced looking guy. So like I wouldn't think graffiti when I saw him in any way. But he started asking me like, well, what are you
Nate
into?
is super cutty.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
dude.
known Nate for years.
Oh, you have?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
tight.
yeah. No, I screen printed for Old School.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
did I. That's crazy.
Fire.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. No, I've known Nate for forever. I mean, fuck, like we've worked with each other closely so many times.
That's crazy coincidence, but doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. But I mean, the first time I met him, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, right? That's tight. You're like such a sweet guy.
Well, dude, I mean, to piggyback off of that, it's the same thought I had, right? And this guy's sitting next to me playing these video games, and he was really friendly. He's like, "Oh, what do you here?" You know, I'm like, "I thought I was supposed to intern for some artwork stuff," and he's like, "That's how it is. You got to climb up the ladders here and like all this."
Word.
And he was like, "Well, what? You know, you sound like you're an artist. What kind of art are you into?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know." And I was very hesitant to bring up graffiti as an interest, but I did. I told him I was into graph, and he's like, "Oh yeah, me too." And he's like, "What do you write?" And back then I think I was writing Satyr then. Yeah, I think I was already on to Satyr by that time. And I told him, and he was like, he's like, "Well, dope. I'm Nate One NPC," and I'm like, "Okay," like crickets, because
That's so funny. You say it just like him too.
Yeah, it's totally how he said it. I'm trying to think. Was I even writing Satyr back then? Maybe not. Okay, and I'll tell you why in a second. But let's focus on the Nate intro.
Yeah.
So he was just like, "Dude, that's dope." Like, and he starts taking like a page out of like a magazine, right? And he's like, "Dude, it's crazy how you can just make pieces out of anything, right?" And he just like takes the letters and like puts these extensions on them and puts like these little flares on the ends, and like, he's like, it all stems from these base letters. You got to understand the base letters before you start tweaking out your wild styles and whatnot. And I was like pretty blown away, but still like apprehensive because I didn't know his lineage. I didn't know who he was. I was a toy. I was just coming out of nowhere. And he basically was like, "Well, yo, if you ever want a mentor, I'll hook you up. I'll teach you the ropes, man."
Damn.
And I was like, yeah, and in my head, and he'll probably laugh at this, but like I was like arrogant dude trying to think I need lessons, like
I don't need shit from you, Nate.
I don't need shit. But it ties in because like fast forward a little bit, I was still hanging out with all my skater homies, and
right,
sometimes we'd be up to some no good, waiting around for somebody to come meet up with us or something like that, and we'd be bored and like sitting on a curb and then like start writing on a dumpster or whatnot. And then the neighbors would call the cops, and then
everyone scatters like roaches.
Well, no, like in this particular story, I was kind of trapped in a cul-de-sac, so we all got rolled up on pretty hard, and everyone got searched, and like I was the only guy who caught a tag in spray paint, and so I ended up getting arrested for it, and it didn't go well in front of the judge, and I ended up spending 10 days in jail for that one little dumpster tag.
Oh, how old were you?
It was in '95, so I was just 18, going on. I had my 19th birthday in jail. It was delightful. I had Christmas and my birthday in jail. Yeah, it was quite the experience.
Damn.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I said I don't think I was writing Satyr then, because in that time, I remember thinking to myself, man, this is the stupidest fucking thing to go to jail for. Like, motherfuckers are like, what are you in for? They're like, you in here for graffiti?
Yeah.
Like,
dumpster tag.
Yeah,
too.
And I'm like, if I ever get popped again, I want it to be for something that's known,
Sick,
that's got some weight to it. Like, motherfuckers will be like, oh, that's Satyr, And
yeah.
So, but at the time, I think I was writing Jasper. I want to say I was writing Jasper, which I don't even ask me where I got it from. I probably just thought the letters were dope or something.
Yeah. It's a sick name.
And then, so I got out and I was like, dude, I kind of, had that like guilty dog look with my tail between my legs, kind of like, man, I got caught for this stupid shit. And I basically vowed that I need to like take it seriously if I'm gonna keep doing it. Otherwise, it's
if I'm going to jail for this, I need to be about it.
Yeah, totally,
yeah.
Totally. So, and then I remembered that little piece of paper with that Nate One drawing on it and his phone number, and I hit him up, and he was like, "Yo, I'm totally down to help you. Why don't you send me like 3 of your best sketches?" And I'm like,
fire.
"Oh, tight. I'm gonna send this fool some sketches. He's gonna think I'm dope, right?" And I send him sketches. Like a couple days later comes this big old package, and it's got my piece is corrected in red pen like straight up, dude.
The teacher status. Just
Yeah,
fucking,
he totally.
This is
teachered
wrong.
me.
This is wrong.
I was trying to turn that F into an A so bad, but it wasn't working, man. But yeah, so he sent me that along with like kind of some style starter kit stuff. Like, hey, you got to start with your base letters. Like, he really schooled me on basically the MPC old school way.
Yeah.
And that started it, man. And I remember I was black booking a lot, which, you know, means I was drawing a lot in books, until, you know, it was time to start painting with him.
Sure.
And the first time I painted with him, let me think, what year? It was probably like 98. Maybe before that, 95 or 6. Anyway, yeah, so he wouldn't let me do my own outline. He just had me fill in everything, and like, you know, he helped structure some of the letters. I helped structure some of the letters, and it was like this long process where I basically had to like pay my dues in style before I was like trustworthy to do my own outlines.
Damn.
But yeah, I mean, like MPC, for cats who don't know about that, it's like a super old school crew. It's kind of based out of Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
okay.
So basically, well, I guess,
Masterpiece creators.
Yeah. So this guy Orko, it's actually, you know, bipartisan crew. I don't have all the original history on the MPC out of Chicago. I know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
No, please feel free.
I'm in a Chicago-based crew now that actually links this story back.
The ATT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Orko, basically, apparently his folks were split, and one of them lived out here in SF, and he'd visit for the summers and whatnot, and he met up with this other guy, Omen 2, Omen 2 and him. So Orko was really known for this airbrush style. He was really dope at really simple, quick, good concept stuff, you know, and cars that he could paint like nobody's business.
Okay.
And he came out and met up with Omen, who was really kind of a practitioner of, well, first of all, his own style, that was just dope, but a lot of more of the technical case 2 stuff that was a little more chop and shift styles that were more complex, right?
Yeah.
So the two of those guys linked up and kind of added the simplicity of like kind of Orko's MPC Chicago flavor to the wild styles, and they were able to just really make a huge impact with their styles combined. And then fast forward, you know, Omen and Nate went to school, and Nate got schooled by Omen. So that's where that kind of the lineage of at least my connection to MPC comes from.
Okay.
So yeah, that was kind of the main stuff. And from there, you know, me and Nate we spent a lot of time painting together. We spent at least 10 years just doing productions. We were just hyper focused on concepts, full backgrounds, wild style burners, simple letters, just doing the full package.
Dude, yeah. I mean, you know, we can get into it later, but I mean, the Lost City of Letters is, you know, for me, very impactful. I'm 10 years younger than you. And just for you know, so that you know my experience with, at least as far as, you know, your work, I've definitely looked up, you know, obviously I seen Piece by Piece when it came out. You saw, you know, Omen talk about stuff, and then, you know, there's that whole little section. So then once I found out about MPC, I looked into it a lot more and learned more about that crew. And then obviously seeing your guys' crazy ass productions, you know, and believe it or not, actually, we've met before. Like 10 years ago. Okay. And I actually have a picture of you on like a jetpack before it was a quote unquote jetpack.
What's a jetpack?
The extendo ladders.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this is like, you know, like, yeah, you're over here like, you know, you're like a hipster graffiti writer because you did this before anyone. You did it before it was cool. Here, I'll pull it up right now because I had a Flickr in like the early 2000s, and then I deleted it because it was kind of just like hella dead. And then I was like, why did I do that? You know, like I should have totally kept my
account.
Yeah. And then so I reopened it in like 2012. And that's when I was like, yo, like it's 1,000. Back then, it was 1,000 gigs for free. So I was like, what, you know, rather than me buying fucking
storage.
Yeah, exactly. I could just put it. But now I have to I'm forever stuck with the pro account because I gotta pay fucking like $80 a year. But yeah, I got that picture of you. Yeah, I made you like, yeah, it was like 10 years ago, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
like,
wow, man.
I was like walking through the mission and shit, and then I seen like you, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go take the whole day and just fucking picture after picture. I think I like just picked up my Nikon, which I still use to this day, my D5100. It's a workhorse. It's broken and paint all over it. Sick. And busted, but you know, great camera. And so then, yeah, I fucking seen you walk. This is like extremely oversaturated when I didn't know how to edit pictures and shit. But like,
It's tight, man. You gotta send me that flick, man.
yeah,
That's-
dude. Yeah, I got a few of them, like, you know, trying to be all artsy and get like, you know, out. I think that was
That thing's still up, by the way. It was like in
Yeah.
some stupid news show about some guy trying to make a like urban garden and people chasing him out of there.
fire.
Yeah, it was weird, but the point was that I saw it still running. And I was like, damn, that's old school. But
Yeah, that's been there for, you know, a decade.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, so it's kind of crazy actually. 10 years later, here I am interviewing you, which is really cool. So I mean, it's, you know, definitely for me an honor to hang out with you.
Thank you.
But then definitely seeing, you know, the Lost City Letters, and I also want to get to it obviously in the future, but seeing your rooftop, you know, that silver rooftop that's like been banging, you know, it's like people know who the fuck you are for sure, you know. But we'll get into it in a second. But you can continue about MPC. Like,
Yeah.
it's a dope ass crew to be a part of.
Well, so I mean, MPC. I mean, it's just such a formative part of my life, and forgive me for not giving the full story. I'm sure, hopefully, you'll bring Nate on here, and he'll give you more.
Oh
of
yeah,
a
we've
deep
already
dive.
been talked about that.
Yeah. But yeah, so he was just this huge influence. We painted all the time. Helped me get introduced to a lot of the old OG writers of the Bay Area. Like I just
Sick.
back then, you know, like it was also a lot tied into hip hop. So we were like hanging out with break dancers and strutters and boogaloo artists and all these guys that
Damn.
were doing all this like Bay Area based like OG hip hop dance forms and shit. So like he really just was a major influence. Shout out to Nate. He's my mentor, lifelong buddy. He's the homie. But you know, you brought up the Lost City. You know, I think at that time we'd been painting a lot together, and I was starting to kind of want to, you know, come out from the umbrella, you know, because it's always like the duo partnership, and I always kind of felt like Robin and he was Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was ready to kind of start my own crime fighting league, so to speak.
Yeah,
And,
you're trying to be Nightwing.
so back then, you know, I was trying to go to school for art, and I was meeting some other writers. Some of my guys, this guy Serve One, he's not really that active anymore, but he's still a major part of my history. Him and I met up through school, and we started connecting on the graffiti stuff. And he was already doing some dope stuff on his own, but like I was really coming out of this mentorship era from Nate One, where I was like, okay, you got to focus on your base letters and like restructure these things. And so I kind of quasi mentored him. I don't know that he ever like asked for it and agreed to it.
Gotcha.
But we would do a lot of Black Book sessions together and just kind of develop our letters together. And actually I was really kind of vibing off his like interpretation of graph and like what he was doing with it, and it was kind of a back and forth exchange of kind of like ways of thinking of stuff. And he was a lot more bomber style, so he would encourage me to go out and like actually paint burners on places that were a little less or a little more risky than where I would go get them with Nate One. And I think that was really appealing to me because of course I love doing productions, but you got to really be careful about where you do those. If you're going to spend, you know, anything over 3 hours on a wall, it's like,
Sure.
you better be able to find your way out of there and hopefully not be seen going into wherever you're going, all that fun stuff.
Right.
But anyway, so Serve was a huge influence to me, and he had a roommate, Satyr, who's now Sirius. He's a good buddy of mine, and
Okay.
that was like kind of they were starting the PT OSH crew. I think it's OSH now. It's gone through different iterations.
Yeah.
But those guys were like really good kind of people to help me get out from my umbrella and also give me an opportunity to start mentoring and
Sure.
and kind of striking my own stride.
Mm-hmm.
And back then it was kind of around the same 2000s era, so I was also hanging out with a lot of these guys, K2, some OG writers that I was lucky enough to spend time with. Even Crayon was an influence of mine.
Yeah.
And this K2 had a gallery, Cell Space Gallery, in the Mission, and that place was just such a cool little mecca for artists to meet.
Yeah.
He'd you know, have us do shows there. I'd always try to do little art shows, and like it would just bring out all the local graph writers to the scene, and we'd all get to politic together and meet each other. And I think it was a cool era that definitely had its influence on kind of where I went from there. And then basically from there, you know, living on my own, being a father was kind of a big step for me to kind of elevate to a different you know, stage in my career. Being in the TL put me close contact with a lot of other writers, like some of my Lord's affiliates, the Lord U's and Pastime were around then. They were kind of in my same industry of managing buildings, and we all kind of banded together to help each other out, and it had the added perk of us having commonalities of the graph stuff. And we had a hub back there in the TL that we love to go to, the Whiskey Thieves, and get drinks.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, I feel like it's a part of our history, man. And I don't know that people have brought it up much, but like that's...
Yeah, no, you know what's funny is no one's brought it up, but I mean, God, I definitely know what you're talking about because I've spent many times drinking there.
Yeah.
And meeting fuck ton of writers.
Dude, crazy. Like all the out of towners, all the heavy hitters, like there were
Yeah.
crazy cats coming through there, and it was like
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity to just connect with writers, and we'd have one or two and go out and cause a little damage around town, and it's just a great way to bond with a lot of the local writers, man.
Yeah.
And I mean that even leads into some like some of my connections to EMT. I mean Germs was working there back then. He basically put me into the EMT crew, and I ended up losing my job back in that same job I was referencing with the management thing, and I spent the time I had down looking for a new job, going around looking for walls. Like I really got so it's like, what does graffiti mean to you? Like, yeah, so graph has always kind of been like my Bible to go to. It's been my helping hand. It's been something that I can rely on to refocus myself if I need that. And I just was really heavily pushing my interest into drawing every day, getting up early, drinking a coffee and just getting on that black book. And by the time I had 5 to 10 pages in the book, I already had concepts I wanted to rock. So I started basically doing a door-to-door salesman pitch to just different businesses that had walls that
Let me rock your wall.
Yeah, and it worked, man. I mean, I was pulling walls, and at that time I was really just kind of looking to stand on my own and just make a name for myself through characters, background, concept, letters, everything.
Yeah.
And so I just was kind of like every month I had a new project that I really pushed. I was really developing my styles. And I was kind of, in terms of crews, more or less a free agent. I still had affiliation with all my ancestral roots, but I wanted to be Satyr 1 at that time. And I think it was a good time because by the end of the year I had a volume of work that I was really proud of. A lot of opportunities opened up through that, met more people through that. Again, name dropping of old bars in the TL. There's this place called the Element Lounge that the owner of that place was the man. He used to just love the hip hop. He'd throw like MC battles and stuff in there, and just like people would practice their breakdancing in there. And he had a wall that he let writers get up on, and there were lots of great writers before me that had hit that shit up. All the ICP guys had been in on that.
Sure.
But I ended up making friends with that owner, and he pretty much gave me the exclusive rights to the wall, which gave me really just a great opportunity to invite people to come paint with me and to build styles and get influence from their work through into my work and vice versa.
Was that still in the TL?
Yeah, I mean, technically, Geary's the border of the TL. I think O'Farrell's really where the line's drawn, but
okay.
I mean, we all call it the TL. It's still the gritty, grindy, part of town.
Are you talking about the main wall? I believe you did like a sick ass like grasshopper. No, not a grasshopper. A
praying mantis.
Praying mantis. Okay, you've done a few productions there.
Yeah, but this wall was in a club, so
it was inside.
Yeah, I mean
Gotcha.
that's still one of the walls that I was painting back in that same time frame.
Okay, yeah, because I think I've seen you do it a couple times over, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I rotated that guy a couple times, but anyway, so the Element Lounge was a really cool, place to meet and mingle, and that's where I ended up getting put down with the Lord's crew, which is a big major crew that I rep and affiliate with heavily, and that was just an awesome time to connect. And from there,
what year was that?
Oh shit, probably 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe end of 2009, 2010, because that's like right after I'd just been doing bodies of work, and of course they were cool. They're like, yeah, we had to check your resume, make sure that you fit,
Run your background.
Yeah. So that was actually really cool, and obviously I could go into 100 stories about those guys and that development.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, obviously I got to shout out ATT and CBS. Those guys also was same kind of time frame where I connected with those guys and got got put down with those guys. So.
How'd you connect with ATT?
Okay, so it actually ties into Lost, our hero,
Okay.
our hero of the story over here.
Yeah.
So you know, I think Lost brought up the story if he was working on that huge production, and I was like driving by and just kind of like telling him, "Hey man, you need a hand with that thing," you know? And he's just like, "I got it," and I just cruise out and just like kind of, I'd probably drink a beer in the parking lot and watch him get to work, and he finally like you know put me down to help him out, and we clicked up pretty tight after that, and you know, I think he actually ended up inviting. I think he was the one who invited Scribe and East out to either stay with him or stay in the area.
Okay.
And I think Scribe had a show at the time, and we ended up painting our first piece with Lost, Scribe, East, and myself at that Element Lounge place.
Oh, okay.
And we did this really cool production. It was kind of a Wizard of Oz theme because, you know, the Midwest to San Francisco, I kind of made this Midwest cornfield type idea, and you're going along the yellow brick road, and you go through the Midwest, and you get to the Golden Gate Bridge, and the Golden Gate Bridge is like the yellow brick road.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of like the tying of our ancestry, and to tie back, so that same character Orko, who brought MPC to the West Coast, he was also a major influence to East out in Chicago. His main location was Chicago. So East was a disciple of that kind of letter structure style mentality.
And you guys were able to connect on that.
And so we were brothers from other mothers, you know?
Fire.
So that made sense. And then we ended up doing another production over in that same parking lot where I kind of linked up with Lost. And we did this really cool, he had this great idea to do this like bugs in a cage thing with like he was talking about that trompe l'oeil, the trick of the eye stuff, where we're basically have pieces that are pinned onto like a display board. So, and then of course we had Scribe, so he can come with the Bedbugicus alaticus, which is basically like a bed bug with like a spandex on looking all goofy with a total crust stash.
That's the tall building, right?
Yeah,
okay. yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
And we just vibed because those guys were only in town for a little bit, and they came through and rocked their stuff. Burned it, and then me and Lost had to make sure that all the details were filled in. And dude, that wall was big, man. I was on a 40-foot stretch ladder, and I was hanging from the roof to do these fake wood grain technique that I was doing, and like the wind would blow, and I was just looking at the ground like, man, this is like more or less a 2-story fall from up here, dude, and I can't see a real easy way for that not to end poorly. But I did it and didn't hurt myself, thank goodness. And that was kind of the beginning of a beautiful friendship. But from there, probably a year passed, and I got a call from East, and he's like, "You're on speakerphone with the crew." I'm like, "Oh, what up, crew?" or whatever. He's like, I can't wait to see your next piece. I'm like, oh yeah? Tight? And he's like, "'Cause you're going to put an ATT next to it. You're in the crew, man." And I was like, "Oh, shit, that's tight, dude."
Damn.
So, obviously that's an important, really happy point in my life right there. So
yeah, ATT is such a sick ass crew. I didn't really know much about it, to be honest with you, until for me, when I started, I was like scared to like paint spots, because I was like, I don't want to toy it up. So I found like the Phoenix Theater. And so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like drive up there like anytime I want to practice, because someone's just gonna go over me anyways. And Lead and Rapes did a production there. And I remember looking at Rapes, and it was just like, holy God, this is really good. And then I seen the little ATT straight next to it, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And then, then you go on Flickr, like ATT Graffiti, and it's just like, just like shit ton. And I'm like, whoa, and like, that was like, ATT's fucking hard, So that's what I'm like, you're ATT. I'm like, damn, that's a sick ass fucking crew, dude.
Yeah.
Good people to be around.
I'm definitely honored, man. That crew is family to me too, and we've actually been doing annual meetups, and it's been great because I've gotten to really build with some of the guys I didn't know before. I mean, to me, it was really, I knew of a lot of the guys. Of course, there's some heavy hitters, and
sure.
And I was lucky enough to paint with Scribe and East, but of course, you got lots of heavy hitters in that crew. So yeah, I've been going out the last couple of years and linking up with those guys, and just, man, it's an honor to be part of that world for sure.
So that we're already in the 2000s. I do want to backtrack a little bit and touch base on that roof.
Okay.
Just because that was 99, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Because there is a 99 on. It's like I think it's a big. It's like the silver fill, and then there's a big silver star with that.
Okay.
And it's it's very telling of like that time, that period of where the 9 it's hard to explain obviously to people that are listening to this, but like if I were to draw it, you'd be like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's such a great piece to like really focus that era. How did you get that roof? Like, how did that whole story go down?
So that's actually not a permission wall. That was a wall that
Hell yeah.
that I was bombing on. I do have a buddy who lived on that kind of complex that I could access the roof from his.
Fire.
So more or less, I mean,
Got the alley-oop.
I had the inside hookup to get to the roof, but funny story, I actually did like one of my favorite wild styles I've ever done on that wall. I just did a fucking full burner, dude, just with all the little doodads and tricks, and I was just going ham bone on that thing, and end-to-end wild style. And I did another little side piece. I was supposed to paint with my boy Rome at the time, and it was going to be a Satyr Rome. And I was talking to him that night. I'm like, I got the spot lined up. We're going to go rock
You
this
share
shit.
the R?
Well, we have, you know,
okay.
we don't make eye contact though. It's good, you know. But you know, I was like, yeah, we're all set on this. I'd already drawn out this whole. I had these spray can gangsters. They were like old school mafia cans, like
Sick.
the little like alien height can that was like the pinstripe bleeder with like the fluff around his collar and just like the big thick tie and smoking a cigar. And then I had like the tall cans behind it that were more like the enforcers with the Gatling guns.
That's fire.
So so he ended up like not being able to make it. And I'm like, fuck, this is like the center characters, dude. It can't just be like lopsided Satyr with these gangster characters. And I was like, I think I was bumping some like Juvenile at the time or something. And I was like, oh, Juvie the Great. I'm like, yeah, it could be Satyr the Great. That works, dog. And so I ended up just solo mishing it and doing a Satyr the Great production there. So, you know, that ties to what you were asking about the silver one. So basically, some toy got up on that roof also and did a hangover, and it's right by the police station. So he did a hangover on the front with this ugly ass tag. I'm not even going to honor him with the name that he wrote on that.
Word.
And essentially got that shit that I had up there buffed. So I was like super bummed because I fucking was so pumped on that.
Side busters.
Yeah, super side busters. So after the day it got buffed, I went back up there and just did that silver end to end, and I intended that just to be a placeholder.
Yeah.
And I've just never done anything about it.
Still rocking. Dude, it's so insane that it's still rocking.
Yeah, it's faded, dude, but it's still there.
99.
Yeah.
So that's 24 years of that silver piece holding on.
Yeah, I guess so, man.
That's fire.
Well, dude, you brought up Lost City, dude. That thing's from 2002 or 3.
Really? Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's you can see some fade on it. I'd love to see it like when you guys first did it. If you have any pictures,
I brought my old school
Hell
celluloid photos of some of my stuff.
I love it.
It's probably not going to translate well over audio, but
sure.
You and I will enjoy.
Yeah. No, that's so sick. Yeah, I'll post some pictures on the story. That's so tight. Yeah, that's a crazy ass route. That's sick that you were like, fuck that, I'm gonna go rock it, and then it ended up fucking that's being the one that stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I've always intended to go back up there and do another wild style, but you know,
at this point you got so much history with that piece.
Yeah,
and no one's touched it since.
Yeah, and it's legible, which is always good. You do a wild style,
yeah.
People from out of town drive by super quick. They don't know who the fuck you are. So
yeah. No, I mean that's it's extremely effective. And it's just tight seeing like stars.
Just filler.
It's such a like old school thing, right? Like I mean, it's 24 years ago, right? Just to do a silver filled star outline 3D on it next to it is so fire.
Yeah, it was quick. I knocked that out quick. I think I was using some big hands and just drained them. Just fast. Just boom, boom, done.
How long do you think you were up there?
20 minutes, maybe.
20 minutes for 24 years.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's gangster.
Let's say 24 minutes just so I could, a minute a year.
That's so sick, dude. Like, that's such a legendary spot. And, like, what's crazy is, like, every time I pass by it, I'm always looking at it and I'm like, how the fuck did you even get up there? But obviously now you had the inside scoop.
Well, I mean, it's possible to get up there. Rome definitely came up to check it out before, and he's like a climber, so he was able to get up there without much problem.
Yeah.
But he's a little stealthier than I am.
Damn. That's fucking tight, man. So I mean, obviously, Twist was definitely something that they incorporated, you know, into like what pushed you to keep going, and then, you know, coming up with MPC, ATT, EMT. God, there's like, I mean, it's just like a plethora of like elite crews that like have like all merged into your into your style. It's pretty fucking dope, man. Like, what are you know, some of the more notable things that you remember? Obviously, growing up with those guys and like, you know, getting into some heavy stuff.
I mean, that's a tough question. I guess, obviously Nate with the mentorship, that was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so everybody have had a chance to paint with like rubs off on me one way or another, you know?
Gotcha.
And I think that's kind of the coolest part about graph, you know? It's like you get this opportunity to see through their lens, and it's, even though it's a competitive form of art, it's also a collaborative one. And especially the way that, like, for me, I do try to tend to edge towards wanting to do productions more than necessarily just individual pieces. Although, of course, I love that too. Not knocking that, approach. But like, I just like having people get down and kind of like mingle the minds. You know, I've had some really good ones through my time, and of course, production's valuable to me. And Nate won in his history, when they were bringing concepts, a lot of times we'd take like a song lyric and just like make a theme out of it, which was really fun. And we came up with a lot of great ideas. And he was always showing me, the history books of his stuff and the people he learned from.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they do like From the Depths of the Funk, and then they do From the Depths of the Funk Part 2. And I'd be like, oh shit, like that's tight. I'm like, what if we actually try to, merge together the ideas, so we don't just say, okay, let's just do part 2, and it's going to be like most sequels to, horror movies where they're not as good as the original. And I'm not saying any of what they did wasn't as good as the original, but it was an afterthought, not a forethought. So I remember, Nate and I were talking about doing a beginning, middle, and end, right? Like kind of like a storyline through productions where we do 1, 2, 3, and it was planned, not just like, okay, let's just do part 2.
Yeah.
And we came up with this concept of making pandemonium come, and it was the first one we did. And by the way, I painted a lot at the skate park down in Palo Alto. Shout out Greer Park. I skated there all the time, and I painted there all the time. And it was it was kind of it was our legal wall to practice stuff on a lot, but it was also seen by a lot of kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'd have to paint it at night, and it's slanted. It was always like we'd have to laser print it, so we'd like start at the top so we weren't slipping on the paint at our feet. And we literally started our own like process to do that, so that we'd literally have our highlights on the top of our letters before you even started filling in the middle and bottom of the piece.
Wow.
So that was an interesting like way that we had to develop in order to be able to paint those things. But this one production, the first one of making Pandemonium come, we're like, okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to have like some lady screaming like a comic book face, like, oh, like some sort of horror thing is happening. And then we're going to write this Making Pandemonium come through the whole production. And then we're going to have some little deviant characters off to the side that are like silhouette demons with their eyes glowing, with their like kind of like Mr. Burns from Simpsons, like excellent, kind of
like scheming, plotting.
Yeah. And we wrote About to Blow the Fuck Up, right? And the irony of our doing that was it was like maybe 1 or 2 days before 9/11. And we actually had a little cityscape in the middle that could arguably be compared to what it looks like of a New York cityscape, which is just...
You guys are like the Simpsons and shit. You hella predicted it.
It was eerie. It was really eerie, because the truth is the second part of part 2 was going to be a humongous explosion. We're going to have like... We did end up doing it, but we had to wait just out of, respect.
It's too soon.
It was way too soon. We were like, damn, this is way too serious.
Yeah.
But part 2, we did these rock letters, like big blockbuster rock letters, and then we did this huge explosion and just like beamed like big old straight lines of explosion through our pieces, and then chunked off the rocks and made them all flying in your face, and it was like huge explosion.
Damn.
And then part 3, it was basically the aftermath of the future. So it was really more like
like a post-apocalyptic
where our pieces were chrome. We were just talking about the chromes.
Okay.
So they're the metal inside of the rock, and it was almost like burning the face off the Terminator, and like here's the robots. And then we had giant spray can robots and like spaceship robots and just this blown up cityscape in the background. It's still running. It's been weathered pretty heavily, but it's over off I think it's Alamany. It's behind some auto body shop near some I think it's like at San Jose or San Jose somewhere around there.
The 3 parts, were they on the same wall every time?
The first 2 were at the skate park. The third one was on an auto body shop here in the city. Yeah, okay. And that one is probably one of my favorite productions and worthy of bringing up. And I don't know if I'm answering the question you asked, but it's still a cool story about the production.
No, yeah, it's sick.
But then I could think tying back to what you're asking. So yeah, that was Making Pandemonium Come Part 3, and I think that was one of my favorite productions where I started feeling like, okay, I'm starting to get a name for myself. Like I'm actually developing to the point where it's like I'm messing with people now. And then of course we did the Lost City of Letters, which was
how'd you guys think up with that concept?
So that one was one that I probably was watching a Disney movie with my daughter or some shit like that, like The Quest for El Dorado or some shit like that. And like, I'm like, dude, what if we do an idea where we are like golden temples hidden in the jungle, but the jungle is San Francisco. And it's our concept of saying that we've had this golden, prestigious artwork sitting in plain sight that no one's been recognizing. You know, it's kind of like New York was always getting the credit for being the masterpiecers. And I was like, we're the masterpiecers. And we of course, linked up with Crayon. And then Nate one added the apt concept to include all the old school writers of the Bay Area, so that it wasn't just us being there, that it was like more encompassing of the Bay Area. And I thought that was really fresh. And that was when, you know, I started painting with Crayon and getting influence from him. And he's just like, again, talk about a laser printer. The guy can just freaking paint so perfectly. Can control master. But so that was kind of the era when I think I started also wanting to kind of divvy out from the spotlight of the MPC and be more independent, which led to a lot of other great productions, including one that I thought was a really inspirational one, painting with Janks and Natural at a jiu-jitsu academy that this guy hit me up, and he actually got me to train jiu-jitsu with him for a little while. Shout out to Cody, he's dope. And we ended up doing this concept where I had done these so inspirations. I was going to tell you one of my big inspirations. It's nature, right? Obviously, the man in animal and man kind of idea behind the Satyr, right?
Yeah.
I always thought that big walls were a good platform to kind of remind people of the nature surrounding them. And so I was really into like carnivorous plants. And so I was like, I'm going to do these giant, like non-cheesy, Venus flytraps that were just like, I could make them big enough so they could technically consume you as a human looking at the wall. I'm trying to think.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, that's the
Little
one.
Shop of Horrors. Feed me, Seymour.
Yeah, but not cheesy.
Right. Yeah,
but not cheesy.
Great movie for sure. But like, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that ties into your question, because that's one of those things where it's like, Natural's so advanced with his styles, and he was just coming. We were doing I wanted to make it look like an old temple that was going to be activated by like an Indiana Jones crystal, like you put it inside the rock and then it comes to life. So we had like these almost like Tron glows going through the rocks that were like activated. And then there was lightning, and then these giant Venus flytraps that are just looking over the top of it. And that's tying to your story. Like it just was so influential to be painting. It was my idea. I was being a wall Nazi, they say, or coach, as Janks calls me. He's like, what if I put some I'm like, no fluorescence. No, you're not touching the fluorescence. And he's like, man, what if I just come with this? I'm like, nope. And he's like, all right, coach, all right. But like watching those guys paint and like, Natural coming with those special effects to really help me get that glowing effect out of it. And just the three of us vibing. I mean, like that's what it's about to me. Like taking a concept and putting together a bunch of talented people and then just like getting it right with their energies. And that's what's up.
That one that you did, borderline TL or whatever, where it was kind of like at least I could be wrong, but it looked like a Thailand deity. It's like a beak creature. At least it looked
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's like
it-
very purplish, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, so I mean, I think you're thinking maybe of the one out in Oakland. I mean, I did a big
Is it
production
Oakland?
in Oakland.
Oh, I could be wrong then.
And it's funny. I think you were sharing some of your ideas to talk about with me earlier, and certainly that ties into how traveling's affected my styles. And that's almost like it's a story in itself because I had just got back from Thailand, and that obviously.
Okay, so it was in Oakland, but it was a Thailand.
Yeah, Garuda.
Okay. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Oakland. That's
Okay.
Oakland.
My
yeah.
bad.
But yeah, I mean, like again, that was a dope
That's
story.
a banger at. I mean, with Ches, you obviously Gozer. I mean, it's a banger lineup.
Yeah, I mean that was dope. I mean Gozer, him and I had like connected and then like disappeared in connection, and like I'd always wanted to paint with the guy, and I got a call from him out of the blue, and he's just like, "Yo, dog, I got this wall," and I was like, "Tight." And
I'm
he's
there.
Like, and he's like, I want to paint it with you." I'm like, "Sick. Who else is on it?" He goes, "You, motherfucker. I'm inviting you." I'm like, "So there's no one else lined up for this wall,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
And he's like, "No, just you, man. We can put whoever we want, but I want to collaborate on something with you." And I go, "Dude,
Yeah.
it just so happens that I just got back from Thailand. I just got crazy influenced by all these Hindu gods, and I got to go into these sculpture gardens with all of these like three-dimensional versions of these giant bird men and monkey men, and
Yeah.
and like I was just like super inspired at the time.
You're trying to lace that up on a wall.
Yeah, and I hadn't even drawn it yet. I just knew what I wanted to do, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go. And then I think we invited Germs, but he like couldn't make it to the wall for whatever reason. And then Rome, so we ended up putting Ches on because Ches is the man, and of course he was gonna rip it. And we just spent so much time just getting down on the details of that thing, dude. We cut out a freaking stencil for a border, and just like we went to work. And that again, Gozer. Shout out to Gozer, man. That guy's been a heavy influence in my life, man. That guy always inspires me, dude. That
Yeah.
just pushes my A game every time I paint with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think anyone is pretty much inspired by Gozer. I mean, that dude can do whatever he wants, And then, it's definitely a good wall. I mean, you just don't see those details anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think anyone really and nowadays it's like people will match colors.
Yeah.
Like that's it. But like you guys will bring a full concept with characters and like just all the intricate work that you're doing. I mean, I can't imagine how long does a production like that take?
That took at least a week. I was
Jesus
out
Christ.
there every night, man. I would go to work and I'd come out there, and it wasn't exactly like, I guess Oakland can be classified as sketch at times, but like being by yourself at night, I definitely got rolled up on by some cats that were testing my metal, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I played it off like, yo, like just kept staring at the wall and like ticking away at little details and stuff. And I think I either bored them or impressed them, or maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I didn't manage.
Yeah, this fool's like not shaken by us, fucking let him rock.
Yeah, but I mean, I was just out there ticking away, like playing with all these awesome colors. I think it was probably one of my first times playing with those 94s, which on a brick wall, that flatness of them just really, I don't know, man. It soaked in a way that was like even tripping me out while I was painting it. Like, damn.
What year was that? Do you
I think that might have been 09 still, dude. That might have
Okay.
been within that range of when I was like coming with the heat sauce.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said that was only one of the first times you're rocking with 94.
Yeah, first time with 94, and definitely like the first real production I did with Goes.
So like prior to that, were you just rocking Resto and Krylons and all that?
Oh no! I mean, I was using a lot of hardcore and like other Montana products.
Gotcha.
It was just that we had pretty much budgeted and bought exclusively 94 cans. So
Damn.
like the matte finish was on everything from our outlines on our pieces to highlights to there was no gloss. It was all, and it was soaking into a virgin brick wall, and it was just
Damn.
Coming out like the way you want graffiti to look.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a good fucking production. Okay, and then any like dicey stories where you've been in like some good times where you've had to like really kind of
Yeah, definitely. I actually, it's funny. I mean, I could give you several stories, but there's one I wanted to share that's I was reminiscing with my buddy about last night. Probably let's say 2001, back when I was more getting influenced to go bombing with my boy Serve.
Okay.
And we were actually, he had just been wrapped on a graffiti charge like a couple weeks prior. And he's like, bro, I want to go do a production with you. I want to go somewhere safe. You know, I want to go
You're like, nah, fool.
no. He was more the bad influence on that stuff than I was.
Word.
But we're like, let's go to Greer. You know, let's go paint the skate park. I know we can get away with that and we can spend time. So we filled his truck with like just tons of cans. I mean, it was a mismatch. We weren't even organized. It was like it's like you just dump your trash bin out in the back of his truck and it's all cans. And so, you know, we're rolling down and it started to rain. And we were with some, I don't know, I guess he had a roommate that was like claiming to be some sort of, I don't know, some sort of weird heritage that we didn't even know. He was kind of like a question mark in the car the whole time. We're like, what's this guy? I think he went by Nalawi, but then later his name was like something totally square. It was like not Nalawi, but anyway,
fire.
It was funny.
Random roommates.
So it started to rain, and based on the, you know, just the logistics of trying to paint on a skate park, dude, you can't stand on a curved surface when it's raining. So so we were like halfway down there and we're turning back and we're like, damn, that sucks. We wanted to go bomb it super bad. And there was this wall just a little bit, you know, north of the San Francisco airport, that like really high visibility, all almost black or dark green, right outside a hotel parking lot. And he's like, let's go get that. I've been eyeing that, dude. Let's go get it. So we're like, all right. So we roll up in the parking lot. We park. And I don't know what's going through my homie's head, Serve, but he like opens his trunk. And it was like daylight. It was like evening. You know, it wasn't like dark. And there's like people in the parking lot walking around. This dude's literally looking like he's opening a freaking spray can store. And he's rattling through his shit. And like somebody walks by and he's like, what's up? And I'm just like, I don't think that's chill, dog. He's like, oh, it's cool. Let's go. Let's get this, you know? And so we grabbed a couple of cans. We hopped the fence, and we go up to the wall. And, like, in this period of time, it was crazy, dude. All of a sudden, like, it's almost like a sting operation that was set up. Like, this wall, somebody just knew it was going to be, like, the best wall. Some writer is going to go after this thing. And all of a sudden, like, there's like, right above the wall, it's like a baseball field or something. We're hit up with spotlights. These cars start zooming. We hadn't even pressed our nozzles down, dude.
Damn.
We were literally just about ready to do it, and he'd just been wrapped, so he wasn't trying to get in trouble again.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I just in general didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, makes sense.
So he splits one way, and the way he split was like right into a dark, deep, dank swamp. So I don't know, you know, at the time I'm like, okay, good luck, homie, you know, and like,
yeah, I mean, every man for himself.
Yeah, well, no, and we both knew that that's probably the best way of avoiding at least one of us going down. So so he took his chance going that way, and then I did a front flip over the fence. Like, I seriously have no acrobatic skills, but I did a front flip over that
when
thing.
Adrenaline is running, bro, you can do a lot.
And there was a cop already in the parking lot. I'm like, dude, it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes from car to the wall. In that period, we were surrounded, dog.
Damn.
And I was running. I was like jumping over hoods. And in my head, I swear I jumped over a car. I don't know if it really happened or not. And I just...
For the story, we'll say you did.
I mean, that's in my head, that's how it is. So I'm sharing it that way. And then I jumped another fence onto the freeway and started running southbound on the northbound lanes on the freeway. And like I said, it was raining. So like I finally picked a spot, and like their spotlights weren't catching up to me. So I was out of sight of the cops. So I dipped under a big bush and just like kind of huddled down in a mud pit. And like, dude, these cops were patrolling back and forth, looking everywhere. There people all lined up. Oh yeah, I could see them. I was sitting there. I'm like, dude, how am I gonna get out of this shit, dude? It's fucking cold. I'm muddy. You know, I'm sitting in the mud puddle.
You just gotta take a nap in that bush and
basically
try to leave tomorrow.
Basically did, dude. I like waited it out, and by this time it is dark. And so I ended up I'm like, fuck it, I gotta get out of here, man. And you know, homie was driving, so I didn't have a ride. You know,
fuck,
so
you're in his car.
Yeah, so I got up and I started running back northbound on the northbound 101. To the next stop where there was a gas station, and I essentially flagged down a taxi cab over there. Told the guy that I got in a fight with my girlfriend, and she just kicked me out on the side of the freeway. And he's like taking pity on me. I'm like, I got $20, dog. I know it's probably more like 40 to get me to my house, but can you just like
hook me up one time
pity me a little bit here? And he's like, no problem, man. I can't believe your girl did that, man. He was like telling me about how he's gotten in fights with his girl and shit. And like, I'm like, all right. And I'm
taxi cab confessions.
But here's where the story gets even crazier, because honestly, that my part of the story is like mild, probably comparative to most people's stories. in that, like, you know, I didn't get wrapped and I got away. And it was a funny story. But homie Serve, he ended up going through the mud puddles, and then he found a tunnel under the freeway that
fire. So he's like, yo, I'm gonna paint this later.
Well, no, it was like a mud pit, dude. So he was like sloshing through like waist deep muck to get to the other side.
Oh god.
And he like pops out, and he's still sketching because they're probably still looking for us. And it's like ended up in this duck pond in this little apartment complex, and he's like trying to wash the mud off. He's lost his shoes in the muck, right? So he's like, people are like trying to ask him what's wrong with him, and like he was like, oh, can I use your shower? They're like, no, man, you fucking crazy person. And then I guess some lady was like, oh yeah, you can use my shower. Yeah, oh yeah, you can use my shower. And he's like, okay, tight, like get me out of the cold and rain and fucking muddy clothes. And so he like goes up into this rando chick's house. She's like, yeah, my ex-husband left a bunch of clothes you could probably fit, and like it's all good, take a shower. So he's like, dope, right? And so he's like taking a shower, and like this chick keeps popping the door open and peeping in on him. And he's like, you know, you mind? And she's like, yo, you better put out or get out. And he's like,
there's no way you just ran the cops into some pussy,
dude. But like not something he wanted, bro. Like trust me, he needed to get away. And so he like snatches the clothing out of her hands, and like I guess it was like a fucking Norton antivirus t-shirt and some fucking REI spandex pants, and like I don't even think he was able to like try to get the shoes on while he's running out the door. And he,
my god.
Yeah, and he like made it to the payphone and had to get his boys, because he lived, I think his boys that he needed to get picked up by were in San Jose or some shit. So yeah, man, that's like the one of my funniest, craziest stories, dude.
Nah, you gotta sacrifice yourself and beat cheeks.
What's
you gotta beat those cheeks, dog, you know, like
lay that Bodiac down, smack him and yak him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's 65, you know what I'm saying? Pull out the dentures and hit those gums.
Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, it must have been horrendous, because I mean, I think that at least if you're picturing it in your head, it's not that bad. But like, homie was frightened.
Yo, that is the funniest shit I've ever heard. There's no way that happened.
Oh, I'm telling you. I mean, it's a vicarious story. I mean, my story is like fun and like probably pretty normal for most people, but like,
yeah.
Just him getting them that Norton antivirus and that fucking spandex.
I wonder if he still that'd be so great if he still had that shirt. Fucking Norton antivirus. Fuck Norton antivirus.
Oh, I love it, dude. That dude, I wouldn't have had those details if I didn't reach out to him last night, dude. Shout out for the details, Surf. That was tight.
Damn, that's hilarious. That's a good story right there. Hell yeah. Let's see here. So let me pull up, because, you know, obviously I write these questions down and then I forget them because unfortunately I'm, you know.
ADHD, baby.
Yup, ADHD and drugs.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
A little mixture of both.
The bifecta.
Yeah, don't do drugs, kids. Fuck, where's my podcast notes? Here we go. Okay, so yeah, we talked a little about that. Okay, so as far as graffiti writers, whether it be old school or even new school, what are some writers that you pay attention to now that really inspire you, that like push you on a little bit and you get pumped off of them and you're like, yo, I need to get down?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. It's funny. I'm not as good at like being up on the trends as I think a lot of people are these days. But let me see here.
I love that you're like have paper.
Well, I was trying to think through it, man. In general, I know that not just graffiti artists, but like some of the Mexican muralists were pretty influential to me. Satyr specifically, like that guy was really dope with being able to take like a corner of a room and like paint it in a way where you wouldn't know where the seams are. So it's kind of like playing with dimension, which of course I bring up because Odith is the man. I'm sure everyone probably already knows that dude's the dude. But
yeah,
like
he really corners.
Yeah, he really really took advanced that look of being able to just like disappear the angles and create illusions that are amazing. And of course, like when I'm visiting Mexico, I love going seeing those old Orozco and Securos guys down there.
Sick.
But of course, early on, and it's funny. I'm gonna reference Dime. I'm mentioning all these dimensional writers, and I don't even really do those super triple 3D stuff. I've messed with them a few times, but I definitely am awestruck by some of the work that those European 3D guys were doing, the lumens and dimes. And luckily I had an opportunity to meet that guy, and he was humble and dope, and spent like his whole show just chilling with me, and it was amazing. But certainly, a lot of friends. I mean, I'm influenced by artists that aren't necessarily writers, or maybe used to be, but don't really do graph per se. My boy Kim Kogan, obviously, he's a local artist here that does cityscapes that really have like a graph flavor to them, in that when you look up close, you can see that it's not perfect. It's not photorealism, but it really just gives off a glow of perfect city vibes and city looks. Check them out if you guys are ever able to get in front of a computer and look at Kim Kogan. Of course, my crew's got some super heavy hitters in them. Scribe and ATTs. Like, dude, I don't even mess with characters the way I used to, but if I were to, that's the guy I'm going to be looking at for influence. Nichos, of course, Lord's crew. That guy's just, I've watched him paint a bunch of pieces where he blows my mind how quickly he can just whip out such detailed and creative stuff. It's definitely influential to me. Jack's also in Lords. I don't actually know him. I haven't had the privilege to meet or paint with the dude, but I follow him, and he just continues to amaze me with these crazy like portraits where like maybe it'll be two faces blended by one of the eyes shared, and it's kind of like a blurred face, and like just does sick stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm always just a big fan of bass letters being clean and funk that goes with the vibe. So that kind of sums up Cantu. I mean, I'm old school, and all that subway art influence and just old school writers. I'm sure I'm missing people, so sorry if I'm forgetting to mention you guys, especially if I know you. There's a lot of dope writers out there that are influential. Lost.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude's always like getting me off my tuchus. He's like, yo, dude, let's go paint something. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I was just talking to him earlier, actually. He texted me like right before. He's like, yo, heard you're talking to Satyr today. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, cool. And he like gave me a
question to bust my chops with.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'm done listening. Like I'm sure I'll think of people while we're talking, and I'll shout them out as they come.
Okay. I did want to touch base. So you said obviously you went to Thailand and you were like really inspired by a lot of the deities over there. Have you had the chance to paint internationally?
Yeah, I've painted. Yeah, I mean, I painted in Thailand. I did a couple things out there. I ended up getting a commission out there actually for it was like a secondhand, really high-end retail watch store, which was really cool. And I ended up getting one of those, like, I'm going to get the name for how these mechanisms continue, perpetual motion watches with like the clear back, and you can see all the
gears and shit. They have like a weighted system.
Yeah, he gave me one from the Thai army.
Whoa.
So it has actually like a Garuda symbol inside the watch, and it was like
sick.
sterling silver. And
you still got it?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, dude. So that was my payment, and of course the cans. That shout out to Jace for teaching me the trick to get cans out to Thailand.
Nice.
So I was able to have a care package waiting for me when I got there. So yeah, internationally though, I mean, unfortunately I haven't gotten as many spots as I'd like to. I'd love to get some more. I mean, I go to Mexico annually. My wife's family is Mexican, and they spend a lot of time down in Guadalajara and Jalisco and the area. So I'm sure I'll be able to pull something off in the near future. I got folks down there that will look out for me.
Yeah, I gotta check those spots. I've only been to Tijuana and Playa del Carmen.
Okay.
And I actually, when I was in Playa del Carmen, I saw like a meeting of styles. They had like a huge wall all the way around. It was like a whole block. It was just walls and walls and walls. And I seen like a bunch of people that I'm like, what the fuck? They're from Europe, So it's like really cool to see like that influential styles from like other places coming here to Mexico, at all places,
Yeah.
People that I'd be like, damn, you guys are here.
Dude, Mexico's rocked. I mean, I love driving around there and just looking at everything. I mean, a lot of the local writers, they're just so vibrant, colorful, creative. They got a lot of, I mean, like influences of traveling. You get to see other people's take on graph, and a lot of times you got you know, I was just in Cancun and I saw giant nitros. I'm like, oh, look at this Austrian out here.
Yeah.
But you know, they definitely seems like graffiti's more acceptable in a lot of different out of the United States places as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful to get inspired by those guys too, and those peeps that are doing big stuff.
Yeah, it is really cool. I actually almost had the pleasure of painting with Nitros in Japan. We were in Japan at the same time.
Oh, tight.
So I reached out to him and I was like, "What's up? Let's get it. I got some spots. You know, I've lurked Japan, been there a few times, and so I was like, yeah, I got some spots for us under some freeways." And he's like, "Yeah, I got some fucking walls. You know." And he had already like some walls lined up and shit like that with
Squid Liquor.
Yes, yeah, Squid Liquor.
She's shout out to her. She's dope as
Dude,
fuck.
yeah, yeah. The both of them together really killed it when they were out there, you know. But it would have been cool to like get some illegal action.
A little Nitros Illeagues.
Yeah,
of course, dude.
Yeah, those are always sick.
That's what's up.
One thing I like asking people, you know, with graffiti, right now, how do you have work-life balance with graffiti?
Well, you know, unfortunately, I don't think I'm being as active as I really should be. So that's a harp on myself, and hopefully one that I can correct. But you know, I got to get it in when I have time. That's really what it comes down to. And certainly I get my push a lot of times, more so from people like Lost and Gozer who want to go out and get some with me, and they get me off my, you know, my hide to go do something. Right now, I'm definitely trying to push to do more stuff. I know we've got a lot of hype in our Lord's crew doing some big stuff. A lot of the guys are just pushing and doing amazing representational stuff for our crew. And I'm definitely going to have to hype off that vibe and get down with some of those guys.
Yeah, I was just in Portland. Fuck, I already forget. But it was just a couple months ago, and I seen Hager post something. And then I was like, oh, and then I looked into it, and I was like, oh, shit, they're doing, like, a huge Lords production with hella fucking people. And then, like, a few days later, I stumbled upon it, and I was like, whoa, this thing's fucking huge. And it was just, like, a sick-ass collaboration. I'm like, dude, they fucking rocked it out there.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's tight.
Yeah, there's some heavy hitters, man. A shout out to Messenger, too. I know he did a bunch of character stuff out there. He's causing the scene and, you know, taking ass and kicking names.
Yeah, hell yeah. So with your free time, what do you like to do outside of graffiti? What's like a hobby that, you know?
I'm a big outdoorsman. I'm a big hiker, fisher, hunter.
Sick.
Into finding critters out in the wild.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like you were telling me earlier about the boa constrictor. If you'd like to elaborate on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been... So this comes from, you know, when I was a kid, I was really into sciencey stuff, nature stuff. Again, I think it's influencing a lot of my work. But when I had a daughter, 2001, it gave me an excuse to be a kid again because I get to influence her in some of the stuff I really enjoyed as a kid. And I had a guy who I was friends with kind of around her birth that his dad was like a nature conservist who did land studies for species like kind of survival in different areas.
Wow.
And so he had like boards laid out up in all these like wooded areas and open fields that were like unincorporated or not public land. And they would take me out and he would basically like flip these boards and find all these snakes and like document what species and what types and like kind of like the numbers of them out there. And so I know it sounds super dorky, but like that's like a thing
tight.
I amateur they call it herpetology or on YouTube it's herping. It's not to be confused with the disease on your lip. But yeah, I like to go out and do
getting something from Las Vegas.
a little amateur herpeting. So that's something I'm getting into, and recently I haven't done much work with it, but I'm starting to try to document those things. You know, the fishing is always super fun. One of my best friends in the world who we used to skate, and we're getting old, and we can't really bust we don't got the same pop we used to, so instead we fish together out in Ocean Beach, and I think we'll put a little buddy video together about us catching surf perch and striped bass.
Sick. Ocean Beach. That's like just like straight off the beach.
Yeah, we put the waders on, dude. Elbow our way in there. I can try not to die, and yeah, we go after
How's
it.
that undertow?
There's been some close calls for sure. I've gotten better at reading the waves and being smart about checking the tides before I go.
Do you do it at nighttime or daytime?
Usually first thing in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Usually before the sun comes up, we'll get out there and then fish through the sun up.
I can't remember if I said this on a podcast, and this is just hella random, but you just reminded me. But me and Musk, I don't know if you've ever seen Musk. He does the Little Mummy.
Over
yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. He's right there on the wall. Shout
Yeah.
out my man Mus. Love that dude.
It's tight.
We went painting Ocean Beach one time. We were just bombing, and it was probably like midnight, 1 in the morning, and we didn't want to be on like the main curve wall, right by the parking lot. So we went a little further down, and there's like this big giant drainage pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just catching fill-ins and shit, but like all of a sudden like our eyes adjusted from the darkness because we're away from the street light, and we look over and it's like 6 or 7 men standing perfectly separated in line, and like we both like just are like our hearts fell into our stomachs, right? Or like our assholes just fucking puckered up. We were like, is this like a cult thing? We like got hella scared. We're like, what the fuck? Because they looked all hooded and it was like really creepy. And so we got spooked and like ran at, like behind the thing, and we like really were just like, all right, let's scope it out real quick because our fill-ins we got to outline.
Mm-hmm.
And then like all of a sudden I see one of them like just cast back and like throw it again, and I was like, oh motherfucker, they're fishing. It's like 30 minutes of us being like scared. They're like, yo, like there's like some satanic people that are about to like sacrifice us on Ocean Beach.
Dude,
they're just being some fucking fishermen. Is the funniest shit ever.
I can see that, man, because especially you get that like hazy mist, that coastal layer there, and you're already kind of high alert because you're doing something that you could get in trouble for, and then you look over and you just see these fucking shadow figures, and you're like, and they're all lined up and it looks like they're coming out of the ocean. I'd be bugged out if I didn't know what's going on too.
Dude, you put a fucking piece of coal in my asshole. It was so tight, a diamond coming out, like I was spooked as fuck.
Do you remember what time that was?
For sure, probably midnight, 1 in the morning.
Yeah, because I know that's not common, but like if it's opening day of like crab season, people camp out and wait for that midnight to hit because you're not legally allowed to before midnight, so they want to be the first to get their crabs in. So you probably hit an opening day for something.
Yeah, maybe. I have the pictures of when we went to go paint that, so I could actually see like the geo date.
Yeah,
that's like
if it's November, I think you're looking at crab season. I don't remember,
but I'd have to like go back and Flickr. It was a few years ago for sure.
I love Flickr.
Yeah, I love Flickr.
I still have my account.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
From like way back in the day.
From way back. Yeah.
Do you still update it at all?
Yeah, I keep adding to it. I don't know if I've got everything, but it goes back to some early shit for sure.
I'm gonna have to get your Flickr handle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Satronymous.
It's the same thing?
Yeah, I think you got to do the whole Flickr, www.flickr.com/photos/LordSatyr1, I think it is.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, check that out.
//
For anyone who still remembers Flickr, I'm still alive.
Yeah, you know what, dude? Flickr's having like a resurgence. Like there's a lot of young kids hopping back on Flickr because everyone's kind of sick of Instagram with all these bullshit algorithms, and you don't get to see what you actually want to see or who you're actually following. I mean, people tell me all the time, like, dude, it seems like you don't post anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just posted like a fucking hour ago, And it's like,
and it doesn't even show up on their feed.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, where it's supposed to Flickr, it's just like, it's just there. There's no algorithm. It's all chronological. Whoever posts is what you see. And it's like, and it's high quality. You can zoom in and look at all the details.
Download.
Exactly.
People were super fucking positive on that before Instagram. Like I remember just like I'm trying to think. Some of these European guys were like communicating. They're like, "Oh, dude, that's right." So like I was like talking to people and like
through Flickr,
and I feel like the cool thing about Flickr is only graph writers were like would know other graph writers.
Yeah,
and there wasn't an ego based on a bunch of followers, right? So like like a lot of times, dude, and it's the way of the world, and I think talking about how things have changed over my generations in graffiti, people do get egos surrounded their likes. People with 1 million followers, why wouldn't you feel like you're some man? Like, and I'm not condoning or saying against it or any of that, but like it does affect the kind of the vibe. Like with the Flickr, these guys would have gotten the 1 million likes, but they didn't have the 1 million likes, so everyone was just mad humble with each other, and just the vibe was based on the skills, and it had almost nothing to do with like the popularity.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what I like about Flickr now is that like I said, there's like a lot of young kids that are hopping back on, and I'm starting to see more and more activity on my Flickr of like people liking shit, and I'm like, damn, that's fucking sick that like people are using it, and we could just see each other's pictures, and it's the same thing, right? It's not about who you are. It's like just looking at the graffiti, just like, you know, what it is.
Yeah.
You know, if you're active, post your pictures, you know. And I'm also part of like the Bay Area graffiti group.
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I see tons of people just constantly putting in like pictures of graffiti, and I'm just like, dude, that's sick, that's tight. Oh, they
Funk
caught
and
that.
Jazz, old school Funk and Jazz. Is he on that group, or is he the originator?
He's on there. I'm not sure if he's the originator, and fucking, I swear to God, if there's any way that somehow is listening to this that it gets back to him, I want you on the podcast. Like,
Ooh, yeah, that'd be
dude,
tight, dude.
I found not me being a creep, but like I know where he works.
Nothing creepy at all.
No, like I was like, I gotta figure out how to find him, because, you know, funk and jazz is like, it's funk and jazz. It's like, you know, and I've said this before on a podcast, and I'll say it again. The biggest compliment I've ever received ever by anyone, they were like, "You're our generation's funk and jazz," and I was like, "Damn,
Oh wow,
that's like a big fucking compliment." You know,
for documenting.
yeah.
Oh, sick.
So, like, you know,
That's tight. That's props, dude.
yeah, funk and jazz is, you know. So, and for those that don't know, because I mean, funk and jazz doesn't exist on. He changed it. Now it's just his name, Steve Rotman.
Okay.
But he's obviously the originator of the Bay Area graffiti book. There's a few, but he's the one with the rayas on the front.
Yeah.
And he did that book, just for people that aren't
Yeah,
listening.
and you know, even before that book came out, he was the man on Flickr. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if you got your picture taken by him, and back then it was like 12-ounce profit, people would like repost it to that. It was always the high quality, super tight. Like, motherfuckers, they couldn't take pictures of their own work as well. Like, they'd wait for that dude to come and get it,
Yeah.
and like you'd be like, okay, I made it. This dude get flicked it. He was like the Henry Schafflon of the Bay Area,
Yeah,
or the Martha
100%.
Cooper, you know, like, but almost better. Like, well, not better. Okay, sorry.
No,
I'm not
it's
saying
all
that.
good. It's all good. I mean, I think he's an amazing photographer. His shots, his composition, like, he
Yeah.
kills it.
Yeah, and
You know, minimal editing.
yeah, no, he had the high quality, high resi, and he if you got documented by him, you were feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, and for those that are listening, if you go on Flickr and you look up Steve Rotman, he has all his albums categorized: San Francisco, East Bay, San Jose, and you can see a lot of fucking history on there.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, man, that's dope. That came up organically, because he definitely had his influence on all of our stuff here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually got a hold of him years ago, when he he was funk and jazz, and then I'd been following him forever, and then I saw when he changed it to just his name, Steve Rotman, and I was like, oh shit, he's active. Like, you know, and I sent him like a, you know, not a DM but a PM, a personal message, and I was like, yo, I'd love to go flicking with you, and he's like, yeah, I don't have an iPhone or nothing, I have just a regular flip phone, here's my cell phone.
Wow.
And I was like, sick, I got Steve Rotman's phone number, like, I want to go flick with this dude, hella bad. And then, you know, I lost it, and it never happened. But, like, you know, then like I said, I'm just a creeper, and I found out where he works at, so I'm just gonna like pull up one day. I called his job and left him a voicemail. I'm like, I'd love to interview you.
Wow.
You know, but like, no response.
I bet you can get him, man. He probably just doing life stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not like, you know, let me be a weirdo and like stalk him a little bit. There's a few people that like I'm trying to figure out so hard. That's the biggest problem with the podcast is you get like 100 no's to a go, and it's always hard. Like, some of the more elusive people trying to figure out how do I get a hold of them, you know. So I mean,
You'll get him, dude.
I'll try.
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, I'm sitting here with you, you know, so I'm happy to like interview you and rock with some cool people so far. It's been a big blessing with this podcast.
Yeah, you've had some hitters on here for sure, dude.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I heard something weird in my parking lot. Okay, see here. We've touched a lot of base on a lot of this stuff. Here, let me go into the user submitted questions.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah. Okay, so shout out my man Torch. He's been a part of some legendary long-running productions. Which one is his favorite?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Honestly, it's actually one I did that's not even letters in Seattle that my boy Humor flew me up there to paint. It's like a block long dragon, but that's probably
block long dragon.
Yeah. I got it done in like 3 days, and it was like crazy huge. Yeah. I don't even know how to explain that one. But if I were to say ones with letters in it, I think honestly that one we were just talking about in Oakland, because I just really enjoyed getting down on all the details and building with Gozer, and that dude's always able to go in and out between the pieces, and like if he's doing a 3D somewhere, I'll be like, yo, put that on mine, and he'll come in and he'll like rock the little ticks that he's doing in his thing, and then I'll put a little funk that I'm doing on mine, and I just love that vibe.
Collaborating with each other and shit.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Top 4 it would be the Making Pandemonium 3, the Step Into Our World with the Venus flytraps, and probably that Oakland one. Yeah.
Okay. Sick. Prison Hooch says, yeah. You ever make your own Pruno?
I've actually tried Pruno before, but I did not make my own.
Okay. Yeah. I forget who, but like I think it was my cousin and like his homies. I grew up with some, not the best citizens, right? And so of course they'd been in and out of prison, and so they gave us like this crazy recipe with like orange peels and ketchup and like
dude, my first
fucking disgusting.
That 10-day stay I had back in Elmwood,
you made a little
down in the
prison
South
hooch?
Bay. They actually they threw a party for me when I left, which is hilarious. The trustees would clean out the cleaning supplies they used to like sweep off the floors with, and like this homie, like I don't want to insult him. He had like one of those kind of listing eyes, so you like never knew like which eye was looking at you and which one wasn't. But he was like,
no, man, he was looking at you and then looking out for like
he's keeping a lookout.
Yeah, exactly, for the COs.
But he was super cool. Like I was super scared. I was young and just freaked out that I was in jail and didn't know it had hit me. And he was like just somehow picked up the skater vibe and was like, yo, I'm a skater too, dog. I got you, man. Let's go get you a beanie and some boots so they don't think you some sucker in here. And then he's like, let's go pick up some cigarettes from the other bunk hall over here. And then we're sitting there like eating in the mess hall, and he's like, you gotta put this orange in your socks, dog. You gotta take this orange. And I'm like, what the fuck am I taking oranges out of here for? And he's like, no, you got to do this shit, dude. And like, so I go through and they're like, oh, he's a newbie. We're not going to search him. And then they'd search him and they'd take out like 3 oranges out of his socks. And he's like, damn, dog, I should have keistered that shit, dog.
Keistered some oranges?
He's joking, of course. He's fucking joking,
I was like,
dude.
God damn.
But I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, why'd I fucking steal an orange, dog? And then the trustee homie's like, yo, we're making this Pruno, man. He's like, yeah, man, I put my little wristband on. I told him to type kitchen clear on there so I could just walk into the mess hall and just tell him I was kitchen clear, and then I just take all the yeast and all the sugars and shit. And so yeah, man, we're making Pruno. And so like, yeah, my last day before I got out, like they fucking threw a little party, man. Motherfuckers were puking and falling over and shit, dude. I think I only had like a piece of an orange and fucking was floored, dog. I was like, it was wild, dude. So yeah, I had some real live Pruno for sure.
It's so gross, but it's so strong.
It's like rotten fruit, dude.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't understand what we were just talking about, it's literally just like prison alcohol, fermented peels, and using the sugars, and obviously to create that alcohol content, and you just get faded as fuck, and it's like the worst hangover you've ever had in your life. So Prison Hooch says, and thank you, by the way,
shout out to Prison Hooch,
yeah,
dude.
for that tangent. What should be more important to a new writer, quality or quantity?
I mean, dude, it's both. It's effort times time equals skill. So you got to get through.
That's a formula right there.
Yeah, effort times time. So you gotta get 100 drawings to get to one good one. You gotta get through 100 good ones to get to one great one. So you basically just need to push yourself to do quality quantity.
Yeah, hell yeah. So great answer.
Both.
Neutron says, is it true that you shit at every train yard on purpose just to say that you shit there?
Well,
Have you ever had to shit at a yard? Is this based off of something?
I've had my experiences, man. You could even ask Lost that shit, dude. Fuck, I'm getting old, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gonna do? But I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's probably likely.
Yeah.
At least mentally.
I shit at one yard one time, not a train yard, but like in a tunnel.
Yeah, tunnel.
Dude, it's the worst.
Oh yeah, my friends have to smell it the whole time. They're like, God damn it, dude.
That's literally what happened. It was me, Musk, and Sopa, and we went and painted this tunnel, and I thank God Sopa is like a really good father and like just on dad mode, and so he brought like toilet paper because we had to go into this hot ass tunnel at like 5 a.m. so we wouldn't get caught.
Yeah.
And so we're in there. I'm fucking exhausted. And he goes, "Hey man, you want to split this cream cheese bagel with me?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'm starving." And I fucking eat it, and I don't know what it was about the cream cheese, but all of a sudden I was like, "Yo, I gotta go."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Here, take the fucking toilet paper," and I was like, "Say less." And I run down the tunnel, and I mean, I make it maybe 15 feet before like I had to make it happen.
Dude.
Thank God, you know, it was dark as fuck in that tunnel, and no one was like looking at me fucking just destroy.
Dude, it happens, man. It happens more than you'd like to admit, man.
Yeah.
Luckily, those step ladders, man, if you sit right on them, you can steer clear and take care of business.
Turn it into like a little...
Yeah.
The jetpack turns into
Yeah.
a little fucking transformation toilet.
I mean, it happens. It happens. I don't know that I've gone in every train yard I've been in, but dude, I'm getting old. It happens to me. It happens to me.
So fire. I love that we're talking about
Thanks,
shitting.
Neutron, for that wonderful question.
Yes, thank you so much. Fucked up says, have you ever had any Karen interaction?
Oh, dude, always, man. Like, come on. I remember actually, because, you know, Nate and I with the NPC stuff, we were getting walls before that was common. So we were kind of, not pioneering, but it was early in the stages of people getting walls permissioned.
Okay.
And that would actually be probably more hassle than even illegal shit. But I remember trying to do a wall on well, it was more like a Karen chicken head. If that helps describe the situation. And she was lip smacking and snapping and going all kinds of crazy, saying that, you know, these guys can't be out here doing this, and just hating, dude. Throwing rocks at us, dude. And then like a day later I finished and she came back and apologized. So that's how dope.
Damn.
You gotta make your shit so dope that they gotta apologize.
Turn a hater into a fan.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of these questions are things that we kind of already touched based on, like, you know, what kind of impact did being an NPC have on your style being developed, which obviously you went into.
Yeah. No, it's in my blood and roots, man. It's my heritage.
Let's see here. K-Tran, what is your style mostly inspired by? What around you has directly influenced your style? Which we've kind of touched based on, but a lot of nature.
Nature and other writers, you know.
Yeah.
You know, luckily a lot of the influences you'll see in my work are direct lineages of other people interacting with me, less so of me just taking shit off the internet, which, you know, I think a lot of people get their start that way. So no knock at anyone who got influenced by other writers, but it's always nice if it's firsthand. Yeah,
for sure. Let's see here. Oh, Rep Kid said, what was your first name you started with? But that was Joke.
Yeah, Joke. Oh, no, Crazy, and then Joke, then Bromos.
Oh,
and
so
then
Crazy
Jasper.
first.
Crazy was first, but you asked what my first thing I painted with spray paint was.
Oh, gotcha. And then let me go to Lost real quick, because he sent me a question for Satyr. What was the most important thing you learned from your graph mentors?
Oh, definitely the graffiti side of things is the letters first. The structure of letters are the most important. Get your base letters, get your gestures correct, and then mess with the funk. So wait to put the funk on until you got your base letters right.
Mm-hmm. Some good quality straights, right? Because, I mean, it's like anything, right? You got to have a great foundation. You can't build a house on, like, just fucking loose dirt.
Right. So, I mean, that's number one. I'd say just in general, you know, for if you're actually out going and doing graffiti and bombing, this is a piece of advice that everyone should remind themselves of. Look around before you start painting. You know, like I've seen so many of my boys get wrapped just like walking the TL with me late at night, like when we're at the Whiskey Thieves or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, yo, bro, this block is hot. And they're like, man. And they just walk up to a door, and the next thing you know, they're getting the handcuffs tracked on them. So just look before you paint, man. That's some basic but really helpful advice.
Yeah, for sure. Backing off of that, what is any type of, you know, obviously pay attention to your surroundings, but what kind of advice do you have for the youth, for people that are coming up, writers that you think, you know, is something that's good to know?
Dude, try to get as much of your history as possible. Probably local would be really highly advised. I've been unpleasantly disappointed by people going over legendary writers in the city, including some that have happened to myself. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to, you know, through my network, they find out who these cats are, and I'm able to skill them up on who they're fucking with. But not everyone has that opportunity to find them people. And some of these writers are maybe retired or not doing anything. So stop going over people's shit, man. If they're writers, dude, respect them as writers. You know, find a wall that doesn't have somebody else's work on it, dude. You know, that's unfortunately, you know, I respect the hustle of people out getting their names up, and I do appreciate all the bombing that goes on, but just respect the other riders, man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You know, most recently, and I'm not going to say nothing, but like, or say names, but most recently there has been, you know, a lot of youth going over, even some murals that are not graffiti, but were done by graffiti writers.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, some of these people have passed away, and it's like,
No respect, man.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like, yo, like, you know, like, you're not stupid. Like, that's spray paint.
Yeah.
Just because it's not fucking, you know, straight up like a graffiti writer's name, it's like, it's not to say that it wasn't done by some sort of graffiti writer. You know, it doesn't hurt to like do just a little piggyback and like, anybody know about this? And then woo woo woo, you know. And I mean, if there's like some whack ass street artist or whatever shit like that, then yeah, fuck it, and, you know, open game. But like,
well, I mean, like the old school, I mean, going back to what the advice from the OGs were, it's like, if you can't burn it, don't go over it. That's like a rule of thumb that everyone should remember, man. If you can't burn it, don't go over it. It's like, you know, tags, then throw ups, then straight letters, then pieces, then productions, kind of that in that order, and then from that inside of each of those categories, you know, you've got to be better than to go over someone. If you can't burn it, don't touch it.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, and I think even, you know, some people need to be humbled as well. You know, like, I've seen so many people get carried away, and it's like, I've had people actually even check me like, yo, you went over my shit, and I'm like, well, yeah, and they're like, you know, I did like 3-4 colors, and I'm like, yeah, but your letters suck.
Yeah.
So I did just a black fill white outline over your shit, and I'm not saying I'm anyone, you know. I'll say this time and time again, I have constant imposter syndrome hanging out with like legends, you know. I'm like, who the fuck is Myan? Seriously, you know. But like, even then, if you stick to just the regular structure of how it should be, you know, and I'm like, yeah, you're more up than me on the street, but at the end of the day, your letters fucking suck.
Right. And so, you know, you can weigh it out. I mean, if you're in a yard, you know, Lake Merritt or something, dude, you're bound to get gone over by just about anyone. Yeah, so get over yourself a little bit, man. You just expect it. But if you got a spot and somebody just goes over it, like, don't, you know, first of all, find a better spot that no one's on.
Yeah.
But second of all, if you are going to, you better come with the heat sauce, son.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that about Merritt. One time there's a kid who doesn't write anymore at all. But this kid was just like, you know, super toy, and he painted Merritt, and big shout out to my homie Cheddar, UGS. If you know Cheddar, he's like this fucking lumberjack Viking, like 7-foot fucking massive man, you know, just straight Bigfoot. And Cheddar, you know, went over his shit, and he was like, man, fuck this fool, da 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 da, like, you went over my shit, I spent hours at Merritt Wall, and we all died laughing, because it's like, yo, it's Merritt Wall, out of all places, but I'm like, yo, you have no idea what you're talking about. I would love for you to say some shit like that to Cheddar, you know, and then once you're looking up at his fucking chin, you're like, oh, man, I need to shut the fuck up. Instances like that crack me up.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, you gotta sometimes bite your own ego and just move along.
Yeah. This isn't even a question. It's just fucking hilarious. Biscuit Twos. You know, when I said, you know, questions for Satyr, he just sent a picture of an old lady with some bug-eyed glasses on him. It's such a random ass response, and no one's ever done that. But you know,
she's Where's the Beef lady, I think, dude.
Oh, is that?
I don't know. She looked like the Where's the Beef lady.
Yeah. Well, shout out Biscuit too for that random ass fucking response.
Yeah, that's him calling me old, and I'm sorry if I don't know who Biscuit is, but dude, you clearly know that I'm an old man. So props for dissing me on something that, you know, kind of hurts a little bit. So thanks for that.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, fuck, man. I mean, we've touched base on so much. Is there anything that you're trying to add? I mean, you have notes and notes on binder paper, which I absolutely love.
Well, it's just I'm compensating for my brain damage here, dude. So it's like I got to write down names and stuff. Definitely want to shout out like some cats lost. So these are some friends: Eon 75, Fryme, Binger, my whole posse. I think I brought Little Ho up, but and JJ, my fishing partner, and old school K Dog. Those guys aren't even riders, but I just fucking love those guys, and they need some love.
Hell yeah!
I basically all my NPC folks, my OSH family, all the Lords guys, man. If I missed your name throughout any of these stories, you know, you're loved. Trust me. Same with the EMT dudes, CBS guys. Those guys have been fucking awesome to me. All the ATT homies, dude. It's too many to name. But you guys have definitely taken me into your wings, and I feel like part of your family. So thank you for that.
I do want to ask, how did you get involved with CBS? Because, you know, it's an LA crew, but I mean, I'm assuming just like, you know, traveling around and meeting people.
Well, so Lords was definitely kind of tied to CBS for a while. It's gone through different kind of iterances of that. I don't know that it's still like a kind of like brother from another mother joint crew anymore, but certainly like when I was in Lords, there was a lot of push to kind of tie the two families together. And I had a wonderful opportunity to meet kind of one of the leaders, or the leader, Anger, out in Las Vegas on another crazy story where me and Sirius got kicked off the airplane going to Vegas, which how can one do that? But we managed to do it. So
Fire.
Yeah, it's impressive. But nothing you know, substantial that lasted from that. We got on a flight the next morning. Everything was all good again. But that was just an epic, debaucherous painting adventure. And Anger was out there, and a lot of CBS guys were out there, and I just kept fucking with that dude because he's just giant and scary, and I just wanted to see if, you know, I just want to poke the fucking bear. I mean, like, almost literally in this case. And we just stayed in touch and
poke the bear. That's such a great way of describing Anger.
I'm like, why are you so angry? Why are you saying no? But he, like, we vibe properly, man, and I think I eventually made him laugh, which is like kind of, that's how you poke the bear. You got to get him to laugh. And you know, we stayed in touch, and he put me down with the crew, man. I spent some time down in LA painting with all those guys. There's a cypher show out there, and just like all the homies, the OGs just came out and supported me. They gave me a big old wall, fucking drove me all through the city, and we went to fucking Stereo's fucking hip hop show. Dude, just fucking love to those cats, man. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Anger's a bigger than life character for sure. When Steiner was getting in CBS, he'd always hit me and be like, "Hey man, you mind driving to LA with me?" And I'm like, "Fuck it, let's go." Yeah, you know. And so we'd constantly mob out there and hang out with Anger and Bleak. And 455er. Shout out to him. I love him. He's such a cool guy. And like every single time I'd hang out with Anger, I'm like, "Are you gonna punch me?" You just don't know. But then like all of a sudden he'd just be hella nice and give me a hug, and then he'd be like, "All right, get the fuck out of here." Like, all right. So, so that's a great way of describing him.
Yeah,
Super
he's
cool
the bear
dude.
for sure, dude.
Yeah, he's definitely a bear.
But yeah, so that was that. But yeah, I want to make sure I don't miss this one. But last and least, shout out to my wife Liz and my daughter Zoe.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Do you think how has being a father like changed you as far as your graffiti? Because like for example, shit, I keep hitting this fucking mic. For example, like Lost was saying that like, you know, when he was a father, it changed his style because it was like, okay, well I can't paint as much, so now that when I do get to paint, it has to be better quality, and it pushed him to get better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, just the fear of being a father before I even was a father made me really start, you know, putting that coal in the butt and turning it to diamond.
To diamonds, yeah.
And it made me try to get out as many big productions as I could before it happened. But luckily, I've been able to intertwine painting with my daughter, and she's been either properly influenced or fucked up from being around it her whole life. In fact, I think she's dating a dude who's into graph right now, which is actually kind of interesting to me. Andy skates. I'm like, dude, that's tight. So I don't know if I rubbed off in a good or bad way, but it's definitely influenced her and me, and she's influenced me too. So.
You got to kick him down some styles.
It's an open one. I mean, at this point, I mean, I'm old enough so that like looking for a mentor, like what am I gonna do? Like be like, oh, you in high school, kid? Yeah. Oh, you want to come to my house and learn some letters, dude? Like it's some creepy sounding stuff. But like, you know, if I get it through another connection through my daughter, then it's like, you know, like it doesn't seem weird.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. So I started a crew, Key Crew, right? Killing every yard. And so my nephew, he's 16, and so I put him in the crew because he, you know, his mom reached out to me and was like, yo, you know, you got in trouble, whatever. Can you kind of take him under your wing? And I'm like, yeah, definitely. You know, like it's kind of my fault because when he was like 12, I think I went on hiking with him, and I was like, yo, you're gonna fill in for me. So like sketched up, and I was like, here, kid, you know, throw him a can. And so like because of that, he like got into graffiti. And obviously, you know, he's in Oakland, so it's like I'm sure, you know, constantly seeing graffiti everywhere.
Yeah.
So because of him, you know, he's like, yo, this guy's sick. I'd love for him to be fucking key so I can paint with him. And I'm like, bet. And so I put this fucking kid down. I talked about him in the last podcast, Mayor, and then his buddy Samoa. So the three of them, you know, they're 16 and shit. And it's always so funny me picking them up, you know, because I'm just like this like almost 40-year-old dude picking up these three kids at a park just looking like a total fucking perv.
Or a dad. You look like the dad driving the kids to the graph spot, which is kind of also funny looking.
Yeah, I'll take that rather than being the perv.
It's a better look, I would say.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, because usually I'm like, oh god, this is weird. This is where I pick up the boys.
Yeah. Hop in, kids. Have you shaken your cans today?
Yeah. Y'all want some candy? God. Oh yeah, fucking Herbert the. Anybody want a popsicle? I fucking love it. Fuck, man. All right, word. Well, I mean, that's a lot of the questions that I have. Once again, if you want to add anything else or anything that you've written that you want to touch base on.
Oh man, I didn't really know what to expect out of this, so it's really cool to experience this and be able to tell my story, and hopefully I don't bore everyone to sleep. So if anyone made it this far in the podcast, shout outs to you for not falling asleep, and respect.
Hell yeah. So, you know, at the end of the podcast, I always do, like, you know, connections, whatever. And so, like you said, flickr.com/_Satronymous Satyr1.
Yeah, so Flickr is the www.flickr.com/photos/Lord Satyr1, and the 1 is a number, not a spell out, and then your last slash. And then that's obviously old school as you can be. And then Instagram, I'm Satronymous_Maximus. Unfortunately, I got hacked and turned into a Bitcoin operator on my other account.
Oh, man.
Sorry about that. And then also on YouTube, Lord Satyr1, you can usually find me.
Sick.
I've got a couple of time lapses, and I don't know whether I'm going to post my little fucking fishing stories on that shit too or not, but
Why not?
I'm thinking I might take platform and share all my life hobbies. So if anyone's interested in seeing some buffoonery, that's where you'll find me.
You need to paint at a fishing spot.
I do.
Sick.
Yeah, I find little spots that
Sick.
you gotta have the backdrop, dog.
That's fire. Yeah, you gotta have what are those things like I've never gone fishing, but like, you know, the things where you can put your poles in. You have like the bell,
A pole holder. Yeah.
there you go, pole holder.
It's brilliant name.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be sick. You know, fucking definitely do some fishing graph videos.
Yeah, dude. The ones that got away.
I'll grab those links from you, and then I'll actually put them in the hyperlinks in the podcast, so that way people can click and find them.
Tight.
All right. Well, yeah. So for as far as me, if you're coming off of a search or anything like that, you can find me Bay Area Graffiti, Bay_area_graffiti, or what's your name? But name is spelled NAYM, which is just mine backwards. Yeah, you know, just trying to be a little, because you know, it's like one of those things. Yeah, what would you write? You know, so I was like trying to think of like
I'm Ritus backwards. I'm a Ritus.
Ritus. RYTAS.
Okay. Ritus.
Hell yeah. That's sick.
So you name Ritus. If we write backwards, we name Ritus.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Name Ritus. Dude, we should do that.
That's tight, right?
I'm hella down there if I can go rock that at a tunnel. I actually flicked you and Lost recently at like this tunnel in the East Bay, and I'll show you pictures of it in a second. But yeah, you guys killed it. And it's always cool seeing you in cutty little spots, you know? Like, actually, if we could touch base on that, I mean, like, you know, obviously you're known for your production and stuff like that, but how's, you know, the lurking game for you?
Again, you know, I do get influenced by my friends. You know, the OSH crew definitely used to do a lot of traveling and bringing me to like tunnel spots up north.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm not allowed to say where those are, but
right.
trains and tunnels in like a chiller environment. So honestly, I rely heavily on you know, people motivating me, which again I'm working on trying to motivate myself a little more. But Lost per se, he's always got an adventure. I mean, that dude's down to get into some cosplay. He'd be like, dude, how are we gonna cross the street without anyone noticing us? I'm like, we gotta dress up as construction workers, dog. And he's like, oh, let's do some cosplay, man. But then we don't do that. We just go paint it. So
that's hella funny. That would be sick though, to see construction workers just fucking doing a burner.
I'm like, we're gonna do the whole Village People theme. Dude.
Yeah, that's fire. You should make that happen.
Dude, hit up our crew YMCA, you know, and be tight.
Dude, I love that. Bet. Well, I mean, you know, thanks for coming onto the show. Before I forget, just because I want to say, I recently put out a bunch of adapters, which I gave you.
Sick.
You know, so I'm sponsoring this podcast.
Nice. Cha-ching.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys need adapters, I'm now 3D printing them. And I have obviously just the regular stem adapters for Rustos, and then the adapters for the Rusto turbo cans. Just 'cause it's a bigger valve system, and I actually street tested them. Well, not street test, but like field test. I went and painted some panels with Odom, and I did a whole fucking panel, black fill, white outline, orange background, a little gray in the 3D, and knocked the whole thing out in an hour.
Tight.
And I was just like, fuck, this is great. I love these turbo cans, you know?
And they're shiny, guys. They're shiny. There's iridescence going on.
Yeah. The filament that I have is like, you know, it's like blends colors, so they're also cool looking. But yeah, myanism.bigcartel.com for your adapter needs. Also make stencil caps too. I'll give you one too as well. You know, the stencil caps are everything for all the fine details and shit like that. You know, I like doing that, especially with your guys' productions. You know, I'm sure you've used stencil caps time and time again.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I rarely do.
No, my bad. I mean,
but I do find reasons to use them.
Yeah.
I just sometimes, yeah, I don't know. They're a little. I get a little shaky sometimes, and then you see these little wispy lines looking all stupid. But but yeah, I like 'em.
I can't tell.
There's reasons to use them, so I'll fuck with it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Word. Well, thanks once again for hopping on the show. And thank you for everyone that's listening, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.
What is this rush thing? What is the rush that you get from it?
The ultimate rush, nothing can beat it. No drugs, no nothing.
Are you the kind of person who goes up on those signs on the freeway?
Yeah, more than anyone.